Hello, welcome and thanks for joining us today for the next webinar in our What's New series. As you can probably tell, I'm back in my home office, so hopefully the microphone and the camera are sounding and looking nice and crisp again. In today's webinar, we'll cover some of the newest features in Microsoft 365 that you can implement in your business, as well as covering some brand new features that are coming up in the next few months. Now, don't feel like you need to make notes or take it all in straight away, as we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar and a follow-up fact sheet later today. And also remember, if you have questions, then please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box at the side at any time. I'll do my best to keep an eye on them as we go along, but there's also going to be some dedicated time for questions at the end of the webinar, as always. So what's on the agenda for today? I'll talk you through two different ways of creating and editing SharePoint pages, one using Copilot and one using an agent, which will then lead nicely onto an update of the Copilot Agent Builder experience. Then we'll look at sharing a Teams meeting recap with non-attendees, as well as transcribing Teams meetings without requiring a meeting to be recorded. And then there's also a new way to test your microphone and camera before joining a Teams meeting. And lastly, what's next? As always, it's good to see so many people coming back and joining us again, and welcome, of course, to all of the new faces as well. Let's start with an introduction to Bedroq. My name is Craig Mundy, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at Bedroq. You might even recognize my voice from other videos on our website or even our YouTube channel. Now, Bedroq is an IT managed service provider, and we're now a Microsoft Solutions Partner for security. And this means that most of the IT we implement is based on the Microsoft stack. So that includes things like Microsoft 365, Teams, Azure, etc. This also means that we meet all of the technical competencies, quality of service standards, and customer criteria that Microsoft demand in the IT security world. We're also experts in secure, resilient networks and managed IT solutions where high performance is critical. We work with organizations that have some of the highest security requirements in the UK, and we manage mission critical IT and operational technology for those highly regulated organizations. The most important thing that we want to achieve is to make sure that your IT strategy is supporting your business as a whole. And we do this through through our 8 strategic rocks that you can see on the screen here: data, skills, backup, strategy, investment, security, quality of service, and collaboration. Now, collaboration, that is the focus of this webinar series, as a lot of the Microsoft 365 apps that we'll talk about are collaboration tools. Now, many people we've come across have invested heavily into their IT, bought all of these apps and have their Microsoft licenses, but they may not be using it to their full potential and therefore not seeing the best return on investment. So really, that's the aim of this webinar, to keep you up to date with everything that's coming out and everything that you could start to implement that you've probably already got access to, and hopefully make a big difference to your business strategy. Bedroq also offers cybersecurity support, and I'm sure that we've all heard or read about these cyber attacks in the news. Well, recovery from something like this can be a lengthy and costly process, so it's increasingly important for any organization of any size to be prepared, because unfortunately, these sorts of attacks are becoming more common. And as I've said, Bedroq have a lot of experience of working with organizations with high security requirements. We have cybersecurity specialists who use these sorts of events as ways to improve our own systems and offerings. We're Cyber Essentials accredited, and we're part of the National Cybersecurity Centre Industry 100, meaning we've got a lot of first-hand knowledge and guidance to share. So if you're looking to assess or simply better understand your cybersecurity needs and requirements, then please just get in touch and we can discuss things like best practice, consult on what your organization is doing to prepare, help you understand the why behind these sorts of attacks, as well as offer training to bring you and your team up to speed, because more often than not, it's not just about the technology. So just drop myself an email or go through the contact page on our website and we'll set up a meeting with our cybersecurity experts. Excuse me there. Okay. Right. So into the updates for today. Now, building a SharePoint page from scratch takes longer than it should. I don't know if any of you have tried it, but it really, really does. So you copy content from somewhere else, reformat it, fiddle with the layout, and half an hour is gone. And for anyone that's managing intranet content alongside a full workload, it's one of those tasks that's never as quick as it looks. So when you open up a SharePoint page to edit, a Copilot authoring panel will now appear automatically on the right-hand side. The first screenshot shows you 4 things that are worth noting. So there's the sparkle icon at the top of the toolbar. That's the number 1. And this is how you would open the panel manually if it doesn't appear automatically. The chat interface in the panel, which is number 2, is where you describe what you want in simple, plain English terms. In the screenshot, you can see that the prompt here is simply create a page about Microsoft 365 Evergreen updates, use content from past 2 months. Then the source files panel, which is number 3, is where file grounding happens. Rather than Copilot inventing content out of the blue, you point it at documents you already have and it builds from those. So you can see in the screenshot that there are several existing files listed there as source material. And finally, the suggested prompts at the top of the panel, which is number 4, give you a starting point if you're not sure how to begin. Options that are simple, like build out this page or create and add new content, are right there just to kickstart things for you. Now, the second screenshot on the right-hand side here shows the result after a couple of exchanges. The page has been drafted and then refined based on a follow-up prompt, and the chat history on the right confirms what has changed and at each step. Now, as I said, the file grounding piece is where it's, I think, the most useful. If your team produces regular internal updates, policy notices, rollout communications, you can point Copilot at the source document and describe the output you want. You won't have to reformat the content manually from a Word doc into a SharePoint page anymore. These suggested prompts in the panel are a small but useful detail, especially for those who aren't necessarily confident with using AI tools yet. And I think it sort of lowers the barrier to trying it out. Now, it's worth noting that this does require Microsoft 365 Copilot license add-on. So if you open up the page to edit and the panel doesn't appear, then this is most likely why. So if you think you'd find value using an update like this, then it's worth raising it with whoever manages your licensing. So next time you need to build or update a SharePoint page, then open it in the edit mode, look for that Copilot panel on the right, and then, as I say, if you have the license, try pointing it at some documents for context that you already have rather than completely creating it from scratch. Now, this one is set to roll out, or has been set to roll out between early May and early June, so some of you may already have it or will see it very soon. So we've just looked at building SharePoint pages from within the editor itself, but this is a slightly different approach, and it's probably worth understanding both because they suit different situations. This one starts not in SharePoint at all, but actually within Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. The SharePoint Page Agent is a Copilot agent you install from the Agent Store. Once installed, it sits in your Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat and lets you describe a page that you want to create. Again, you can point it at existing content and have it draft and even publish the SharePoint page without ever opening the SharePoint editor. Now, these screenshots kind of walk you through the workflow of how you would go through this process. So as I say, screenshot 1, that's where you head to the Agent Store and you can add it into your Copilot Chat that way. And then head to your chat, which is in screenshot 2, where you type in your prompt and attach your source file. In the example, you can see that there's a Word document attached for reference alongside a description of what the page should cover. Now, looking to the top right, screenshot 3, the agent responds with a draft card, confirms which SharePoint site it will create on the page, and then it tells you that it will stay unpublished until you're ready to push it live. Now, if you use this regularly, you can kind of skip this bit of the store part, so as you may already have it installed. So if you do, you can just type and start typing SharePoint in, so SHAR, into any of the Copilot chats to pull up the agent in line. As you can see in screenshot 4, it'll appear in a box at the bottom. Then all you have to do is click into that, and then that will put it into the prompt box from there. So this is different from that previous feature. I mean, the main difference is your starting point, right? Rather than being in SharePoint, you're in Copilot chat. So this is advantageous if you're already working in Copilot chat, say. Potentially you're drafting up something or pulling together a summary, and this is what you want to make the SharePoint page about anyway. So you then don't have to switch to SharePoint to publish it. The agent brings the publishing step to where you already are. As I say, you're already in it and you've got the agent installed. Just do @ and start typing in SharePoint page agent, and then you can click and it'll then start to, it'll then be ready to take your prompt from there. So like the previous feature, it does require that Microsoft 365 Copilot license, and you'll again also need to install the agent from the agent store before you can use it, although that takes seconds, to be honest. This feature has been delayed a couple of times. It was originally due late 2025, pushed to early 2026, but now it's currently due mid-May to early June as well. So let's keep an eye out over the next couple of weeks. So now we know about creating SharePoint pages using agents as well. And naturally, this might raise a question to some of you sitting there. Who builds these agents in the first place? And could we build our own, in fact? And well, that's where this feature comes in, the agent builder. And Microsoft has, I hope, just made it considerably easier to use. This update is purely about the creation experience. So it's important to know that the underlying agent capabilities haven't changed themselves, but the interface that you use to build them, that's where this update comes in. It's been redesigned to be, hopefully again, clearer and faster. So on the left-hand side, marked by the 1, you've got the landing page. And this greets you with a prompt box where, again, you can just describe the agent that you want to create. There's a set of pre-built templates to start from, and also a list of agents that you've already created. And that last part really matters. Being able to reuse what you've already built will hopefully down the line save you some time rather than starting from scratch every single time. So once you start building, the describe and configure panes now sit side by side. So that's what you're seeing in screenshot 2 here. On the left-hand side, as I say, that's where you describe what you want in plain language, and it's where you can iterate the changes and the rules and the tasks that you wanted to complete. And on the right is the configuration panel, and this updates in real time. And crucially, it shows you what you changed and why after each instruction as well. So it means you can see the agent's purpose, its guidelines, knowledge sources, and toggles for things like web search access and organizational chart integration, for example. And it's all in one view. Whereas previously, Agent Builder felt a bit like it required a certain amount of confidence, I suppose, to get into. But this new layout makes it far more accessible to someone who has never built an agent before. You describe what you want, the templates give you a starting point even, and then that side-by-side view means that you're never guessing what your instructions actually did. Aside from the SharePoint agent that we looked at in that last update, there are a few useful pre-made templates on offer from Microsoft as well. And these can range from corporate comms crafter to a request for proposal generator to a customer insight assistant. And as I say, these are ready-made starting points for workflows that I'm sure financial services teams run regularly. And again, this is all without having to start from scratch. So even if you use a template, you can then iterate it to fit your needs. I could see this update being particularly useful for IT managers and systems admins who have been curious about the Agent Builder, but have potentially found it a bit unintuitive previously. It's also a good one to flag to operation leads who might have a repeatable workflow that could benefit from an agent, but perhaps they assumed in the past that it was out of their reach technically or simply didn't know about agents at all. So if you've thought about creating an agent, or perhaps you just fancy giving it a shot now after this webinar, it might just be the time to dive in after this update. So open Copilot, go to create and see what templates there are. You might even find one that maps directly to something that your team already does or even needs. Now, this rolled out late April, early May, so it should already be live for most of you. Moving on to a couple of updates coming to Teams. Now, I'm sure we've all been in this situation. A useful meeting happens and someone important wasn't there, and you end up forwarding the recording link only to find they can't access it because they weren't on the invite list. Then it comes back and forth to whoever owns the file permissions, and it's one of those small friction points really, but it happens constantly in busy teams. But Microsoft are finally adding a proper share option to Teams meeting recaps. So organizers can grant access to the full recap, including the recording, the transcript, the AI summary, and notes to people who weren't in the original meeting. And there are two places that this new share button appears, and you can see them on the left-hand side here. First, the top left, marked by the number 1. It's you can find it in the top right corner of the recap page itself, next to the Watch in Browser and Copilot button. The second, so moving down to the number 2, is directly on the recap card in the meeting chat. So you don't even have to open the full recap to share it. And both lead to the same place, which you can see on the right-hand side here, marked by the number 3. And this is the sharing dialog. It's as straightforward as it is when you're sharing files through other Microsoft apps. So I'm sure you'll have tried that out through SharePoint, through your file explorer, directly from within, say, Word. It's very much the same. You type a name, an email, or a group, and you can add an optional message and either hit share to send it directly through Teams, or you can copy the link and drop it wherever suits. So if you're dropping it into an email chain, just into a couple of different chats, then you can do it whichever way suits you best. The recipient then gets access granted at the point of sharing. So there's no more separate permission steps needed. But with that being said, if you're not the meeting organizer, it's going to be slightly different. So you can still copy and share the link in exactly this way. However, anyone who wasn't in the meeting will still need to request access. And that's at the point when they try to open it. Now, for teams where not everyone can make every meeting, and let's be honest, that's most teams, this will hopefully remove some genuine admin headache. You won't have to manually adjust the sharing permissions on recordings anymore, which you would have to do before setting up the meeting. The organizer controls the access, the recipient gets a clean link, and the AI summary means that you can get up to speed without watching an hour of video. This gives you a controlled, traceable way to share that content without opening up a whole recording to everyone. So keep an eye out for that share button appearing on your recap pages in the next few weeks. And when it does, sharing a meeting with someone who missed it becomes a 10-second job. Now, this one is due sometime this month, by the end of June, so it's coming very shortly. I see that we've had a couple of questions have just popped in. With Teams meeting recap, is the organizer the only person that can share, or can anyone in the meeting? So, yeah, basically anyone within that meeting can share it. But as I say, if it's from the organizer, then the person who receives the link will just be able to access it, no problem. But if it was someone, just another attendee that shared the link, that the person who received the link will have to ask and request for access. But that should go straight to the organizer. You know, it's a couple of clicks, and again, it smooths it out just a little bit from there. Will the link work for recipients outside my organization? That is a good question. I think it should. It doesn't. It didn't specify when I was reading through it that it wouldn't. So I think that it might, but potentially in that situation, it would still come up with the request for permission to access it. But all you could do is give it a try, especially if you're the meeting organizer. It would be worth giving a shot that way. Hopefully it would work, because then that's a huge headache, being able to share some notes that way. So unfortunately, I can't confirm it one way or the other. I just have to give it a shot when it lands at your tenant. but a very good question there. Okay. So we're still in Teams. This one ties directly into that meeting recaps update. I know that there's some tension in a lot of regulated teams. That it's something that they run into quite a lot, where transcripts are genuinely useful for co-pilot summaries and intelligent recaps, but automatically recording every meeting creates a storage overhead, it raises data retention questions, and in some firms, it sits uncomfortably with compliance policy. And even just internally, you have people that don't like to have their cameras on when it's being recorded, and it can just be a bit of a headache. So until now, if you've wanted transcription to start automatically, you had no choice but to create a recording alongside it. Now, Microsoft have replaced the existing on-off recording toggle with a three-way dropdown in the meeting options under the recording and transcriptions setting. So screenshot number one, it shows this really clearly. So you head to your settings, find the record, the Copilot and other AI settings, then under record and transcribe automatically settings, there are three options. Record and transcribe, which is the default that it's been recently, transcribe only, and off. So select transcribe only, and the transcription starts automatically when the meeting begins, with no recordings created or stored. The transcript is available after the meeting, and it feeds directly into Copilot and the intelligent recap as normal. And participants aren't left in the dark either. As you can see in the number two, there's still a pop-up that appears, a notification appears in the meeting that says transcription is started automatically per the meeting organizer's settings. So this just gives everyone in the meeting the same transparency as you get when you're doing a full recording. And then onto the third screenshot, it shows a related control that's also worth knowing about, which is who can record and transcribe. And this is by no means a new setting, but I wanted to highlight it anyway. So it lets you restrict who in the meeting can initiate recording or transcription with options for organizers only, organizers and presenters, or no one at all. And this is very useful. This is all within, when you first set up your meeting, you go into your meeting settings and you can find the Copilot and other AI, and then you can adjust these settings to suit your needs. Now note that this is a Teams Premium and Microsoft 365 Copilot Premium feature, so it's not going to appear for everyone. Now for FCA regulated firms, the distinction between a transcript and a recording really matters. A transcript is just simply a text log, whereas recording is a full media file with a much heavier storage and retention footprint. And in some cases, it can trigger different obligations as well. So this update gives organizers a cleaner way to get the Copilot summary benefits without the recording overhead. So if your organization has been reluctant or to enable automatic recordings for similar compliance reasons, then it's worth having a conversation with your compliance or IT leads on this one. Transcribe may just sit a little bit more comfortably from a data governance perspective. So next time you're setting up a meeting, as I say, head to those settings and check specifically the recording and transcription section in the meeting. Now, if you don't see the drop down rather than a toggle, the new options aren't live for you yet. Now, this one, again, very similar to the rest, rolling out early May to early June. So it should have arrived to some of you with the right licenses or arriving very shortly if you don't have access to these settings quite yet. And here's a simpler update just to close out some of these updates for the session. So we've been talking about automatic transcriptions in meetings, but for that to work well, and frankly, for any meeting to start well, your audio needs to actually be working before you join. So we've all sat through the first 2 minutes while someone works on their microphone that isn't picking up, or the speakers are set to the wrong device, or they're just talking away and think that they're working just fine. Now, anytime my laptop does an update, it does reset all of my default devices within Teams. So unfortunately, I can be that guy, but I'm aware of it now, so I'm quick to try and change those settings. But this update, It's a small one, but it should hopefully help, again, alleviate some of that friction or alleviate this thing that happens all the time. So what's really changing? Well, Microsoft is adding a new test mic and speaker link directly into the Teams pre-join screen. So screenshot 1 on the left shows exactly where it sits, and it's right underneath your built-in microphone and built-in speaker selections before you hit join now. It's a link, so it's not buried in any other settings or anything like that. So you just click it and you get a new test dialog window that pops up over the top of it. And that's what you can see in screenshot 2. So Teams prompts you to, it initially starts with just playing a tone and asks if you can hear it. And if you can, then you click yes and you move on to the next one. If not, then you'll click no and it'll try a different speaker setting initially. And once that is, you'll hear a sort of a bong, and then you can speak into your microphone and you'll see that blue bar or the dotted bar fill up with blue if your microphone is working. Then after a pause, it'll play it back again, and then you'll be able to double confirm that your speakers and your microphone are both working. So depending on whether or not it is working, you can confirm, yes, I can hear it, or choose no, try the next mic. And this will cycle through your available devices automatically. And then if it happens to be all right anyway, the back button also just takes you back to that pre-join screen. And this whole process takes, honestly, probably less than 30 seconds. I tested it just before joining this webinar as well. So for teams who field regular, I can't hear anything in Teams support tickets, this is a bit of a self-service fix that happens before the meeting even starts rather than in the first few awkward minutes. And it's also useful for any time that someone is joining from an unfamiliar device or a different location to usual. And I know that this happens a lot for us when we all get together and work in our office. You've got different headsets, different setups. It's just a different environment, and there's always some sort of issue with this tech. Now, as simple as this is, it's the kind of feature that quietly reduces a whole category of support requests and reduces time wasted as well. So you know that I just love it. It's worth letting your colleagues know that it's there as well, because it's not the biggest or boldest link, and everyone skips through that screen quite quickly, so they may miss it. And now that I've said that, I know that you're all thinking of at least one colleague to send this to as we speak. Now, obviously, we can all go into our settings and change these things the usual ways, but this is an excellent quality of life update to be able to do it on the fly. So before your next meeting, keep an eye out for the test mic and speaker link on that pre-join screen. It's a small thing, it might just save you from being that person at the start of the call. Now, this one was due by the end of May, and as I say, it's landed at my end, so it should already be live with you or arriving at your tenant any day now. All right, and that's us for today. I just want to quickly let you know about the next webinar in our series, and this will be coming next month. So it'll be taking place on Thursday, the 9th of July, and you can register for that now. I will just pop the link into the chat for you. There we go. So as always, we'll look forward to seeing you there. And if there are any topics or questions that you wish for me to cover in the next webinar, then please get in touch with me and I'll be happy to have a look. Now, if you just simply want to make sure the event's in your diary, then please go ahead and register now. And remember that all of these webinars are recorded and accessible through our YouTube channel and website. So make sure to have a look through them if you're interested in learning more. And of course, send them to your colleagues as well that you think might find it useful. And if you do or are currently watching this on YouTube, then make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment with any topics you'd like for me to cover in future webinars. Now, I'll just very quickly take you through our stakeholder workshop that Bedroq run, and it's called the 8 Rocks Assessment. It goes back to those 8 rocks I talked through way at the start of this webinar. Now, it's simply a stakeholder workshop designed to get consensus on your business priorities. It can be conducted face-to-face or virtually, and it gets leaders and investors aligned behind the best way to fully assess your IT strategy. And please note here, there's no cost implications with this other than a mutual investment of time. So if you're an IT leader at your organization and you need a bit of backup to prove to the CFO that you need to make an investment into your IT, or perhaps you're just looking at ways that you can better use your existing investments. Well, we're happy to look at all of these things. So let us know if it's something that might interest you, and we'll be happy to set this up and introduce you to the team that will walk you through that process. Now, we are bang on 11:30, but if there's any other questions, then please do let me know. I'll have a little check, see if I missed anyone. Dan's asked, which Copilot license do you need for the create for agents as we discussed today to appear in the icon bar, top left of the Copilot app? Good question. I'm afraid off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure, but I can do some digging. If you want to reply to an email that I'll send out later today, then by all means, please do. And that'll give me a nudge in the right direction to go and have a dig, and I can see if I can find out for you. Now, for the rest of you that are still here, if you have any more questions, perhaps while you're looking through that fact sheet later today, then please feel free to reply to the email and I'll send out that with the recording. And as always, I'll be happy to help with any queries about the content in this webinar or anything else. And we'll look to cover your suggestions in the future as well. And just a quick reminder about cybersecurity. If it's on your mind, then please just reach out to us and we'll have a conversation. So again, thank you very much for joining us today, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Goodbye.